Okay, guys, so you know that my wife recently got diagnosed with stage 3 cancer. And in the process of that happening, I've been researching all these different things that can potentially cause us cancer to try and find out why people get it and what we can then do to fix the issue. Now, of course, chemo and radiation, yeah, they can help for sure. But I mean, realistically, those things do kill you as well. So really, the better thing to do is to avoid pollutants, avoid things that could potentially cause you cancer in the first place or cause you to be sick. Breaking down your immune system seems as though it potentially can be a way you can get cancer. Now, I've been saying for years now, ever since my grandma set me this interesting example. She would make sure not to use a dishwasher, and she would always rinse her dishes after washing them. And we all thought at the time that was ridiculous, unnecessary. And I remember that everyone in the family seemed to think she was just being picky. Turns out she was right. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm the Electric Viking. And this has nothing to do with electric cars or renewable energy. In fact, it's only the second video I've made on this channel that has nothing to do with those two things. But it does have something to do with your health. And you know what? I feel vindicated because I've been saying for years now to people, anyone who will listen, don't wash your stuff in a dishwasher unless you're damn sure it's rinsing off all the chemicals. Now, the reason that I started doing this was, well, partly because of my grandma, partly because I actually read a few articles saying that, yes, if you eat off dishes and things that have been washed with dishwashing liquid and you don't make sure that all that liquid is off, it can cause problems. Problems with testosterone levels, problems with all kinds of things. And people have for a long time now thought, you're just being crazy, mate. Sam, whatever. You're being mental. Just be quiet. Well, turns out I wasn't. Not long ago, in fact, when I say not long ago, for me, not long ago is 2 years. 2 years ago, I actually borrowed a drink bottle from someone and I went for a bike ride with them and there was water in that bottle. And I remember drinking the water and thinking, this is yuck. This tastes like the soap in a dishwasher. This can happen, right? You just get used to it. You take something out of the dishwasher, you think it's nice and clean, but actually there's a very thin film of chemicals still left on those things that went through your dishwasher. So ever since then, 2 years ago, I stopped using my dishwasher, and now when I actually wash my dishes, I rinse them afterwards. Well, maybe that's been helping me. This is how. Residue from detergents on dishes can harm your gut health, as well as cause a host of other issues, says newatlas.com, according to new research. This new research is questioning the safety of chemicals used in dishwashing detergents after intestinal cell models revealed high doses of components in rinse aids will damage your gut health. Now, we all know the gut is the pathway to the immune system. This is information that, in fact, a lot of people don't know because it's relatively new. Your gut, the health of your gut, can largely determine how good your immune system is. So it's very, very important to focus on your guts. So it's very, very important to focus on your gut health. How can you do that? Prebiotics, probiotics, even postbiotics you can do that with. Having lots of fiber, obviously vegetables, those sorts of things. Plus eating things like fermented foods, like kefir, sauerkraut. Sauerkraut you can just buy in a jar. It's basically cabbage that's been fermented. And then, of course, kefir is essentially yogurt that's been fermented. Now, kimchi is another option as well. Those are really probably the three most popular options that are really things you could do. They're things that I'm just going to go, that sounds yuck, I'm not going to do that. So those are what I do. Personally, I have sauerkraut and kefir on a regular basis. And even though I don't get enough sleep because I'm always working too hard, too much, because of all the supplements I take, because I have that, because I have other stuff for my gut health as well, I actually take a thing from ATP Science, which is called Gut Health, and that I believe really does contribute to my overall health in general. Now, for those of you wondering, you're probably thinking, yeah, but man, you haven't been that healthy the last 12 months. Yeah, you'd probably be right. When I had that throat issue, it was terrible. honestly, I didn't want to say it at the time because I know a lot of people would find this very hard to hear. A lot of people are very, very, very antagonistic if you question how good a vaccine is. But that happened right after I got each vaccine. When I got the Moderna vaccine, I got that throat issue within a matter of 24 hours and it just wouldn't go away. And then when I got the vaccine on the second occasion, by the way, I had to get the vaccines. I didn't have a choice because I was traveling overseas. When I got the second vaccine, the same thing happened as well. I got the throat issue and it just would not go away, no matter what I did, it seemed. I also feel like I might have gotten myocarditis, or at least a mild version of myocarditis from the vaccines, because I've had a weird sort of thing in my chest ever since. It's not a heart thing in terms of me having a heart disease. I've had that checked, don't have heart disease, but possibly a mild level of myocarditis. So getting back to these chemicals, which I've been trying to do my best to avoid, and one of the key reasons I actually don't use soap, as in I don't use soap on my hair, I don't use soap on my body, I don't use any antiperspirants, things you spray under your arms. Don't use that, not at all. Now, yes, I do use soap in those strategic areas where you kind of need to use soap, but I use something that's like not a soap. It's a product which doesn't have any chemicals in it. It's a natural product. I've checked all the ingredients. It's okay to use. And I actually think that we are poisoning ourselves with all the soaps we use, all the chemicals we put on our hands. We wash our hands with these chemicals. You can't really think that's not going to sink into your skin. Well, this evidence shows it is, and it's damaging your immune system. Commercial dishwashers are designed for maximum efficiency, blasting dirty dishes with detergent and then a rinse aid across 2 quick cycles lasting a couple of minutes using minimal water. Now, what's one of the things with dishwashers, right? They're always crowing about how minimal water they use. Well, obviously, there's a downside to having a super water efficient dishwasher, meaning it's not rinsing your dishes very well. A new study from a team of international researchers investigated exactly how much chemical residue is left on dishes after these commercial dishwashers complete a cycle, and what effects these chemicals have on human gut tissue. What's especially alarming is that in many appliances, there's no additional wash cycle to remove the remaining rinse aid, said study lead Cesny Actis, director of the Swiss Institute of Allergy and Asthma Research at the University of Zurich. This means that potentially toxic substances remain on the dishes where they then dry in place until you use it, and then you eat those substances. Probably doesn't matter, right? If you do it a couple of times, if you did this maybe once a week, probably wouldn't be that big of a deal. But when you're eating off those dishes and drinking out of those cups every single freaking day, that builds up and it builds up and it builds up. And then when you put soap on your head, right, conditioner and soap, and it sits on your head, it sinks into your skull, which it often does. A lot of people don't wash it out properly because they're told not to, because that's what it says on the product. Or when you put all these creams on yourself, do you think all that stuff is actually going to be good for you? I don't think so. Using new organoid technology, which allows researchers to generate 3-dimensional cellular structures resembling a variety of human organs, the effects of different detergent chemicals on the gut were studied. The results revealed the chemicals cause distinct alterations to genes involved in cell survival, epithelial barrier, cytokine signaling, and metabolism. Yeah, that's pretty bad. I mean, changes to your genes? Is this affecting your children's genes? Maybe. You know what? I actually think it could be. I've been saying this for years as well. Why do I say that? Well, because scientists and, geneticists, they don't know and seems to know why it is that testosterone levels are going down with every single generation. If you have a child, if you have a son, there's about a 99% chance their testosterone level will be lower than yours. And that's happened to you. Your dad, he would have a high, generally speaking, they have a higher testosterone than their kids. Same thing with the previous generation before them. Nobody knows why that's happening. They attribute it to potentially some people say it's plastics. Some people say it's chemicals. Well, here's one way you can avoid potentially changing your child's genes negatively. No one fully understands how this is working, but it appears as though from this research, this could be one of the ways that's happening. Honing in on the specific chemicals causing the damage, the researchers identified the culprit to be alcohol ethoxylates. These chemicals are often used in detergents and surface cleaners to help displace debris from household objects. Prior research has found alcohol ethoxylates to be non-toxic to human cells, and no evidence has been found to suggest alcohol ethoxylates are carcinogenic or mutagenic. This is the first research to show that alcohol ethoxylates have a negative effect on gut cells and can even change your genes. That, my friends, is alarming, and it's something that I believe is very real. I don't believe just because there's no research in the past means that that research hasn't potentially been suppressed. Could have been. That does happen. Look at, for example, perfect example is what happened with the research done on asbestos. When you inhale too many asbestos fibers, you get cancer and you die. You actually can't do anything about it. When you get cancer from asbestos, you just die. And researchers many, many years ago, in fact, decades ago, they knew this was happening and they told nobody. For decades, they told nobody because the companies who were making the asbestos paid them to do the research or were some way involved in the research, and they kept it all quiet. Could that be happening here with this? I don't know. Possibly. In terms of residual chemical concentrations on dishes, the researchers found the greatest damage on gut cells came from alcohol ethoxylates in rinse aid at dilutions of 1 to 10,000. The study notes domestic dishwashers tend to use a little more water and longer washing cycles, with dilution factors calculated at 1 to 80,000. But that really depends. I mean, this is based on brand new dishwashers, right? If you've had your dishwasher in use for a little while, how well does it work? Yeah, not as well as when they're new. It's important to note that any actual damage to a human gut is hypothetical according to some people. According to others, well, is a very clear link. According to Actis, the effect of alcohol ethoxylates on intestinal cells seen in the research could possibly trigger a number of inflammatory diseases in humans. Now, maybe this isn't what's going to trigger cancer. Maybe this isn't going to trigger your inflammatory issues or inflammatory issues you might see in the future. But if you combine this with breathing in the toxic air from diesel emissions, from gasoline emissions, from emissions from coal power plants, from emissions from all kinds of areas, and then you combine it with potentially stresses or actually eating foods, maybe you had some sugar for a few times a week, maybe you had not enough sleep, you combine that with some sort of injury or some kind of stress, excess cortisol levels in your blood, put all that together, you have the perfect storm. That's when bad stuff happens. The effect we found could mark the beginning of the destruction of the gut's epithelial layer and trigger the onset of many chronic diseases, said Actis. It's important to inform the public about this risk, since alcohol ethoxylates seem to be commonly used in commercial dishwashers. Ultimately, the researchers suggest an urgent need for further research into the health effects of these chemicals and what they're doing to people, including what they're doing to your children and their development. While it may be tricky for individuals to evaluate chemical residue as on dishes in commercial contexts, such as restaurants, it is possible to make sure dishes at home are rinsed free of detergent residues. I suggest you do what I do. Don't even use a dishwasher. But if you must, rinse them. Make sure you do like some sort of double rinse. If there's an extra rinse button on the machine, do that or take them out and then rinse them. It's worth it. That's what I think. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. And as always, my friends, thank you for watching. Let's have an amazing 2023.